Hello. Waiting for Amy to pop on. Hello, hello, hello. There you go.
Hey.
Hey. At first I was like, am I on the right Facebook? Not that I have multiple ones, but I didn't know if I accidentally went to a practice session. So that was fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I wonder about that that reminder thing, like if you were going from your laptop, if it would give you that option. But I think when you go like from your phone, that you have to
Yes.
do something completely new. Hey everybody, Rachel, Autumn,
Hey,
Vince.
say hello. I'm going to grab my glasses.
Okay. How's everybody doing? Just give it just a couple of minutes, let everyone get the notification. And for Anne-Marie to get
that. Yeah, I left my glasses in the restroom. In the restroom, like I'm in a restaurant. Well, I'm just excited. I mean, the last few weeks have been, just building up to everything that hey, Suzanne, everything that we, are expecting in the times to come. We really feel like this is going to be a year where God really pours out his glory and really, many of his promises that many of us have been waiting for. Hey, Suzanne, are going to come to fruition. But there is that time where it seems like we're waiting. Hey, Sarah. And it also seems like, sometimes that waiting is really, really difficult, or sometimes crazy things happen during that waiting period and we get really kind of fed up. Sometimes we can almost throw the towel in. And so we're on here to, hey, Sarah, to talk a little bit about that. Some things that we have walked through in our waiting, and some things that we know that many of you are probably experiencing too. And every time that there is new territory taken, new ground taken, there's going to be these periods. It's not going to happen just once. Right. It's going to happen every single time we go to move forward, that we run into these periods where it's either super, super quiet or we come up against more opposition. And we really have to focus on what we're gaining out of those times. And so when Amy and I were talking, earlier this week, I really liked how she put it. And it was kind of put into our little blurb, reminding you of our video tonight, of how she put it. And I liked how she put it. So I'm going to let her go ahead and talk about that, and we'll get this conversation going.
Yeah, as I was sitting in the quiet earlier this week, the Lord just kind of reminded me, because I was praying for some things for some people that I just love dearly, and also some things that I'm walking through, and I've talked about this before. I want to say maybe I talked about it last year. Hey Tabitha, hey Brad, hey Joseph.
Hey, Brad.
And he just took me back to the how do we handle our butt if not, and that whole little phrase. And
oh, you froze.
To King Nebuchadnezzar is basically making everybody bow down to his idols, worship his idols, and all this stuff. So these three Jewish guys that are in this territory is basically telling Nebuchadnezzar, we're not doing that. So Nebuchadnezzar is saying, okay, well then I'm going to throw you into a fiery furnace. Okay, so that's story for those who may not know it. So then verse 17 through 18, here's what it says. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to save us from it, and he will rescue us from your hand. But even if he does not, I'm going to leave it there. even if he does not, and when we are dealing with a lot of situations, like, how do we walk when that prayer doesn't get answered? How do we walk forward when that thing doesn't happen that we fully were expecting to happen, like right now? How do we walk when the healing that we're expecting isn't immediate and you realize that this healing is going to be a process? How do we handle it? Like, are we still trusting, or are we acting like toddlers, throwing a fit? I didn't get my way, I quit. Like, I've been there, okay? And that's why I'm talking about it, because I've been the toddler. I'm not getting my way. I thought you said this. You said this in this prophetic word, and I took it and I held on to it, and it never happened. Immaturity, okay, right? So when we're waiting, when we're in the process, we gain that maturity and we gain that understanding, so that when we hit the moment, things aren't quite folding the way we had anticipated. How do we handle those but if not moments? And so that's really just kind of where I was at in my thinking process this morning, because right now we really are truly on the cusp of some really amazing things. But we also need to realize, like we said last week, like, where are we in that process? Where are we being unfolded, and where are we being revealed? That each and every one is so, and how we are coming out of this this thing. This is where it's that quiet time, allowing the Lord to show you where you are in this moment, in this time. So when you like we said last week, when you have these corporate prophetic words coming, that's where you take them to the quiet and ask for him to reveal that to you. And a lot of times I wrote this down because I just love how the Lord talks to me sometimes. So actually, not sometimes, all the time. He says, it may not be the breakthrough you want, but it will be a breaking through of things you need. I think so many times we look at everything that we want, that we forget things that we need. Okay, so we have to stay surrendered and seeking. And the Lord brought this question in my mind. Do you think that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had their perspective changed before or after they got tossed into the fiery furnace? And it was, well, duh. It was after, because Jesus showed up in the fire with them. And, this whole thing, this whole process, this whole walking forward, all these dreams and these visions, I mean, that's just like ammo for the fire, so to speak. But the whole thing, it's all about a deeper revelation of our Heavenly Father.
When you were talking about all this week, it brought me to John 3:16 specifically. But, it says in there, just as you can hear the wind but can't tell where it comes from or where it is going, so you can't explain how and when people are going to be born of the Spirit. We also we can't control how the Holy Spirit's going to work. We can't control how God's going to work. He works in a way that we can't predict or understand. And, just as we don't control, our physical birth, or even when we're birthing a baby as a woman, we can't control these things. So we cannot, we also cannot control our spiritual birth or what he's birthing through us in his promises. If we can accept these other things that are out of our control, then we need to be accepting, when his timing comes in and when he's going to bring things to fruition, and when we're going to actually see those bigger movements that we need, and during that time, we just have to believe for him. John 3:16 says, for this is how God loved the world. He gave his one and only son, so that everyone who believes in him will not perish and will have eternal life. Well, I liked how the Life Application Bible said, to believe is more than an intellectual agreement. It means we put our trust and faith in him. We have confidence in him alone, and we are to put our trust in everything that he is in charge of right now in our present plans, just as we do in our eternal destiny. If we can trust him for that, we can trust him where we are right now. We have to trust his words. We have to trust his power. We have to trust him to move. We have to believe, and that's basically what 3:16 said. I think that's the hardest thing for me. I know that, through everything, it was the trust, and it was walking through some very difficult times that, you have to, I think that's what he's building in so many people over time. Hey, Rachel, really good to see you on here. Yay.
Bye.
I miss you.
Yes.
But, so often he does it. I think the trust building is going to be an ongoing thing. It's going to be a forever thing for the rest of our lives, because we always have to have a higher level of trust or different things that we trust him in, over such a long period of time. He's always like, trust me in the provision for you. Trust me in, the restoration of your marriage. Trust me in, the healing of your heart after loss, and so as we trust him in these different things, then he's preparing us to trust him overall. And eventually we get to a point where, it's funny. I said this to somebody today, Georgia gets her worrying from me. I get it from my mom, but I have to say that I'm less of a worrier now than I was before. I mean, that's truly been weaned away from me. So that's his work in me. That would be impossible for me to do without God. And why did my trust get built? Because he came through as I trusted him. So, I looked at, you were talking about Daniel 2 was something that came up last week, that the king was so furious to hear that no one could interpret his dream, and Daniel 2:12, and he was literally trying to search for Daniel to kill him along with the other wise men of that time. And he gets to Daniel finally, and Daniel interprets the dream, but Daniel trusted in God to save him. He literally trusted that he would come through. He had no idea that he would be able to do it, but he trusted him. And that's what we need to do. We have to walk in that kind of faith.
Yeah. And when you've got that relationship going, you understand, that the Lord's heart's desire is to give you those good things, but he loves you so much that he's going to make sure that you are ready to receive it. And, the Matthew chapter 7, verse 7 and 11, I'll just read it. Verse 7 says, ask and it'll be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open to you. Of course, for everyone who asks, receives, he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks the door will be opened. And then down in verse 11, if you then know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? And the thing that struck me today as I was sitting here just kind of soaking on that, that the good gifts from our Father, they're always given with kingdom purpose. It's not just for us to have these great cushy lives, or it's not like a Christmas morning thing. This is all kingdom purpose. And so as we walk through the process, he gives us good gifts all along the way. And he reminded me of this word he had given me last summer about Christmas in July. And then at the end of the month, he kind of had me revisit it and talk about those that were kind of walking through that moment of what I call post-Christmas disappointment. Everybody who's had kids, you have at least one kid who's like, well, I didn't get this, And so he kind of had me kind of revisit that. And at the end of that July, he said, I did give you something. You just weren't paying attention. You didn't see. And so that gift was this mirror to take a look at yourself, look at all of the changes that I have made within
Mm-hmm.
you and around you, and allowing you to kind of take in the scenery. And, you know, he kind of gave me this vision of, you know, maybe earlier in the year, or even in the spring and then into the summer last year, like you were like kind of in this muddy pit of a valley. But then at the end of July, when you know, you're whining and complaining because things didn't happen the way you wanted them to. No, take a look around, and sure enough, you know, you were up on the side of the hill and you're looking over the valley that you were once trapped in. So he did give good things. It's
Right.
all that process, and it's all that trusting. And, you know, and when you have that deep relationship with him, it's much easier to trust, because you know he's a good father. You know he's going to
Oh yeah.
follow through. But if we're not ready to receive it, we won't be good stewards of it. And so he loves us too much to, you know, not spoil us, so to speak, but to prepare us for everything that he wants for us.
Absolutely. You know, it's so funny. I think you said this earlier, like we come from complete opposite directions sometimes on these topics, and then surprise ourselves just the 5 minutes that we have to discuss them,
Yeah.
you know, face to face on here. And I mean, it goes along with, you know, this word that he had spoken to me before. And I mean, this is one that's just, it's timeless because it's so true. Open your eyes. You are literally in the midst of your suddenly. There are so many who have felt they are still waiting, believing they have been passed over for yet another season, when in reality, many things you have taken to cause a shift into your destiny. The Lord is saying to you, look around. Do you not see? Do you not realize you have already stepped into new territory? I have already begun something new. He didn't say you reached your destination, but your new journey has begun. He desires us to take the time to look around us and see the suddenly that has already begun to happen. We need to recognize it and praise him where he has placed us. Praise is the fuel to the next level of activation. If we are too worried about where we are not, rather than seeing what he has already brought us into, we will miss it. Where we have moved into, although not our final destination, is necessary in our progression. God's timing is not ours, basically. I mean, and we talked about that last week.
Yeah.
You know, his suddenly, therefore, will not be done in an earthly instant. You know, I had someone send me a letter one time after I wrote that, and she's like, my God is capable of an earthly instant. And I'm like, absolutely, he is. But sometimes our earthly instants don't equate to his. It's God's time. And, you know, and quite frankly, I'm happy that that they don't sometimes, and we're going to be talking about that in just a minute. But however, as you progress, you will look back in awe and be amazed as to what has happened in such a short period of time. If you are able to look at the alignments or a provision that has taken place recently, no matter how small, you will see how far it has moved you forward. Don't plant your gaze. This is like what my favorite part of what he said to me. Don't plant your gaze looking down. By doing this, you will not see your movement. The view remains the same when you're looking down. Hi, baby. When you look around and see the new he has created just for you, you will begin to praise rather than continuing to cry out. His great angels listen for the song of your spirit. They wait in anticipation to carry out their next assignment that will promote you. God cannot release them if you are not ready. You are not ready if your faith continues to focus on the ground you see beneath you rather than the new he has created around you.
Yeah. You know, and how many times do we get in our heads, like how we think things should come and manifest when it comes to the dreams and visions that the Lord's given us. And we instantly, because we have those mindsets, we instantly put him into a box. And I'm speaking from my own personal struggles with this, because I have done this so many times, and it's just, I've set myself up to get beat down and defeated by disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that disappointment gets settled in because my focus wasn't on the right thing, or it wasn't clear, or I was putting those ideas, how I thought those prayers would be answered. And it just, you instantly put God and his manifestations into a box. And every time you do it, you'll be disappointed. And know, and you forget that you need to be refined. And I was,
well, I think of,
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry. I think about, you know, the different times that he's done that for me. And, you know, it's been a long process these last 2 years. You know, I'm trying to think of where to even begin with that. But like if someone had put the, if he takes care of his birds and feeds his birds, that scripture that I can't think of right now, but that was given to me 3 times in a certain day when I was trying to decide what day I would leave my day job so that I would be able to write and pursue some other things before we ended up starting this renovation business. And, you know, God spoke that to me, but it didn't mean that, as soon as I quit my job, there was provision in my bank account. Like literally things got worse before they got better. And actually he said that to me the day I walked out of my workplace. After my 2 weeks notice, I didn't just walk out. Right. But, you know, they got a lot worse. And, but then as things progressed, he gave us this nugget of this incredible job that made us feel safe. And then suddenly that job was taken away out of anybody's control, and our dream was placed in our laps. And it wasn't how we would have chosen for it to be placed into our laps. But now we're doing what we wanted to do together 20 years ago, and it's exciting. So it was all in that process of getting to that. But I also think of, you know, you and I stepping out in this ministry together. 2 years ago, I didn't know you yet.
Right.
A year and a half ago, I started to get to know you. But there was a process that I was stepping through, and it was some of those courses that Nate and Christy Johnston offer. I've talked about those before. There was healing and things that took place in that. There were prophetic words spoken over me over that next year. There was confidence gained in speaking out, you know, all of those things that had what I wanted to take place when I wanted it to take place. They wouldn't have, you know, transformed me into preparing me to take on what he actually has planned for me, which now I feel like my whole entire, like I always wanted to write. I never wanted to speak or like have a conversation on Facebook, you know, and here we are, you know, I would have never met you if I wouldn't have walked through that process. And I can't imagine doing this with anybody else, but here we are, we're doing this. Yeah. And there's a lot of other things that I could see myself doing for him if he asked me to, you know, and there's value in that because I could be sitting behind a computer typing, you know, Marty working whatever job he would be working, and we wouldn't be sharing in this business and stepping out in ways that we never imagined, but ways that fulfill us, both in our day job and in ministry.
Yeah, well, and the Lord, I mean, just right along with that, you know, he took me back to Genesis 45 with Joseph. You know, he didn't get that whole revelation of, you know, what you meant for harm, you know, God intended for good, quote, you know, the day that he was thrown into the pit by his brothers. He didn't have that revelation when he was on the auction block. He didn't have that revelation probably till he was sitting in prison for the second time, you know, of really seeing the Lord's plans unfold. I mean, maybe he didn't even get it until he was actually in the palace, you know, interpreting Pharaoh's dreams. You know, it was all that process of all of those things, you know. It was negative things that were done to him, but in the midst of all of that, the Lord's favor was still with him, and then, you know, his plan still unfolded for Joseph. The dreams that Joseph had before his brothers even got rid of him still manifested. And as I was thinking about this, the Lord just kind of giving me that little revelation, you know, he just kind of reminded me of just some old, you know, bad teaching that I had heard at some point when I was, you know, young and impressionable, that, you know, it's not even worth repeating, but, you know, like the whole, maturity and wisdom, they come in the process. For Joseph, they came in the process after he was given. And I think that the Lord does that for us sometimes because he wants to give us something that he has for us, just kind of, fuel for the fire, that thing that you need to hold on to in the midst of the storms. And, and because sometimes when we haven't hit that maturity level, that depth of revelation of God, we tend to think that, well, I'm not where I should be. I bet the Lord probably, gave his plans for me to somebody else. That was that.
Right.
But the Lord was just kind of shared this in the midst of a conversation I had with Mark earlier this week. And, he just kind of said, you're not that powerful, and I think some of us just are wondering if we've made so many bad choices that, I'm too far gone. And the Lord was just like, you're not that powerful, because anything really outside of just flat out rebellion and disobedience, you're really not going to change the Lord's plans for you. It might take you a little bit longer if you're needing to be refined a little bit longer. I had to go through a lot of refining because I was, pretty rough around the edges. But I think as long as you continue to be, you're continue to be surrendered and trusting them to guide your steps, there is not anything that you're going to do about your day, about your week, that's going to knock you off that path. And I think sometimes we worry and stress so much about, gosh, I don't know if I'm going to make the right choice. I don't know if I'm going to mess this up. I think we're giving ourselves too much power, because really, if we're surrendered, he's going to guide our steps. He knows our thought process. He knows our day. He's laying it out in front of us. I mean, we still have choice. That's his gift, because we have that free will, that choice to choose to be surrendered to him. We choose to have that, giving him that permission to walk with us. And when we do that, we're trusting, hey, you know what? I don't know what is going on here. I'm trusting you. You're just going to have to order my steps today. That's all it is. It's that simple. We just stress and worry about stuff so much. And like I said, outside of, flat out rebellion and disappointment, you're not going to change his plans for you. And one bad day or one emotional outburst or something isn't going to change that.
Right. I think Sarah said it right there with, we're so scared of stepping outside of God's will, but as long as we stay on his path, it's okay to stumble and fall. He helps us back up. There was something I'd written down earlier about that same thing where, staying on his path, as long as we're staying on his path, we're prepared. He's prepared to keep us on course. If we veer off that path, if we end up, stepping too far off and losing ourselves, and that's where we need to make sure that we're focusing and staying in, relationship with him and staying in his presence and asking for his guidance, because we really can't navigate this on our own. And I think so often we feel like we can, we're in charge of the ship's wheel and that we're guiding our course, and we really are not. We have to really truly stay surrendered to him, and he'll keep us on that path. It's often where we hop on and we take the wheel and we steer ourselves off of it, and then he has to go through a heck of a lot of work to get us back onto it, because we messed him up, but I think I think one of the biggest things is that we have to realize, if we take this whole winter storm that we just got in Maryland here, I know this has happened to you out in Illinois as well, that, it's a time when you feel like your season has changed. You feel like you've stepped forward. You still feel like you've moved, taken a step into the next season. And then all of a sudden, the wind and the cold and the snow comes back in and wipes you out. And you're like, what in the world? Where did this come from? But in the end, you know, there are benefits to that too. One, it reminds you where you came from and where you've already stepped into, you know, but there's also purpose in that, because God knows that, you know, well, they've already walked through this. So when this happens to them again, or when there's like, you know, a moment of the past that goes, oh, where did that come from? There's actually like, I don't know, like I thought about it yesterday and I was like, no, I don't want the snow to be here. I don't want, you know, I don't want to miss a day of renovation. I don't want to miss this or that or anything else. And in it, he brought me to a place of rest in his presence, because I knew that that was the only place to go. When you're stuck at home, there's nowhere to drive to, you go into a time with him and you spend some time with him. And just like if you are stepping into that new season and you get wiped out again, where are you going to go to? He's teaching you where to go to. You know, immediately step back into him, because this is not going to happen once. It's going to happen over and over again. Every time we step into a new season, we're going to experience that backlash of the old season trying to come back in. And, you know, if we stay focused on him and we draw into him in those moments, then, you know, he's training us, and that's going to allow us to step further into the season, reliant on him.
Yeah, because sometimes that season change isn't a simple and easy move. Sometimes that old season can be a bit relentless and not wanting to let go. But that's where you have to remind yourself that we are, you know, just take the calendar for instance, you know, we're on the second day of spring, but the weather isn't feeling like it, but it doesn't change the fact that you are already in the new season, you know, so you can't respond to how the old season still kind of feels. You have to stand in the truth of, okay, we've stepped into a new season, so I'm going to respond to that truth and not the old, you know, season feel, if that makes any sense. But, you know, it just, yeah, I think, you know, every time we move and we shift, you know, things try to hold on to you, try to remind you of things, try to hold you back. And that's where, you know, that season change becomes a little bit of a battle. And you just have to recognize that, you know, when you know you're moving, just know that you're going to have some opposition that comes with that. And just remind yourself that, hey, I've moved into this new thing, and, you know, strip the power of the old season off and just, you know, walk forward in that.
Yeah, that goes with a word that he spoke to me once when he said, in the coming days, there will seem to be a continuous flow of turmoil, but understand that this is confusion sent by the enemy as a distraction. I mean, it totally is. I thought of today, like, you know, last week we talked about how we felt like we came up against opposition all day long, right? Prior to our hopping on our live. And today actually went along. It was a wonderful day. And, you know, just before we hopped on here, like one thing after another was, you know, kind of like distracting me. It says, you know, you are meant to draw deep into my presence as my will for you quickens. I need you alert and ready so that opportunities are not missed. You know, sometimes these things happen to keep us on our toes. You know, we have to be on our toes to not only not to be aware of what the enemy could be doing to distract us, but so that we are looking, just like the other word that I mentioned, we're looking up and around and not looking down. Advancement is upon us. You know, I've heard you cry as you have felt distant. I'm always with you, but you must know that I am working behind the scenes for you. There's so much going on behind the scenes that we are not aware of. There is much to be aligned at this time so that it may be released, causing a remarkable change in your life. How many things would need to be orchestrated to cause that change? And we're wanting it tomorrow. You know, then it's not going to last. You know, if we get it in our way, it won't last. One that will not go unnoticed. That takes me back to that Habakkuk, that 1:5. I love that scripture when he says, I'm going to do something that you will not believe, you know, and he is, and he's going to bring us to that, but he's preparing us for that. And, you know, we have to be willing to move when he says move and wait when he says wait. You know, I just feel like sometimes the quiet moments bring us a clarity that we don't have when we rush through things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I feel that way sometimes even when we hop on here, because, you know, when I'm getting distracted by the enemy to, you know, throw me off for the evening, you know, I can kind of just feel like, whoa, what am I talking about? Like, where are my notes? Where is everything at? And there's no clarity, where if things were slowed down and the process of actually getting to the point of going live were slowed down, there would be so much more clarity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we can't, you know, come up against that and not appreciate it. I appreciate the quiet. I like when there's that stillness, and we can really draw into what he's saying.
I know something that I've noticed lately, just over me, even like just despite all of the distractions and the opposition and stuff, it, you know, I've had my moments where I've been fazed by it, but I've also just felt like the Lord's just really just doing the sharpening, you know, like he's just sharpening up his weapons, you know, us being his weapons, you know, we're so much more fine-tuned to hearing what he's saying and seeing where he's moving. Like I shared last week, just seeing his fingerprints on every little detail of orchestrating things, and it's fascinating to watch. And as you were talking about that, I was thinking just about just in general, like the seasons and how, you know, we've been going through winter here in the States. I know it's opposite seasons where Miss Sarah is, but you know, in the winter, you know, it's just kind of cold and it's dull. And, you know, by the end of it, you're just kind of like tired and dull and just kind of sick of it. But then once you start getting a taste of the new season, this spring, it's amazing to me how much more like wide open your eyes are, and how you notice all of the little bits of spring just kind of starting to peek through. Like the little buds are starting to form on the trees, even though it's still cold. And, you know, little weeds or flowers are starting to kind of peek out. And I just see that over a lot of us, that, you know, we've kind of been dealing with this dull, nasty winter, and we're moving into the spring, but, you know, spring hasn't quite been given permission to manifest yet, but there's little hints of it, and we're seeing it, and it's exciting because it's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so awesome. And so that fine tuning of the sight and the ears of seeing all the signs of spring before it's even here. And that's where we're at right now. That's what, you know, you keep hearing with these like prophetic words of, you know, these are announcing spring before it actually manifests. And so it's like an encouragement and like a get ready, you know, like it's coming.
Yeah. Definitely. You know, that makes me think of the Matthew 20 parable of the vineyard.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes, you know, I am going to admit that I just lost my note. I'm like, where? I'm like, I was holding that right here in front of me. Give me just a second.
It's all good. Oh, sorry.
You know, it does come, and it comes fast for some people, and we don't understand why sometimes it happens faster for some than it does for us. And you know, it made me think of things can just happen in that split second, and they can be quick. We think of you know, the criminal on the cross next to Jesus, and literally, like, he was given his salvation there in that moment. And then there's those of us that have gone through our whole entire life believing in God and walking in his will and you know, putting our hands to work for him. And we don't understand, you know, how it can be something so quickly for some and not for others. And that just, you know, I know that this parable means something totally different that has to do more with what I was just talking about. But, you know, when I was reading it last night, when God gave it to me again, I kind of thought about, you know, there are those workers that he hired that started at 9 in the morning and they worked all day. And then he hired other workers at, you know, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you know, and then at the end of the night, the ones that came into work at 5 got paid the same that had been working there all day since 9. And what he said was, should you be jealous because I'm kind to others? You know, no, we can't be jealous. One, there's purpose in that, you know. You know, when we feel that way, you know, why not me now? And we're watching these other people step into what he has for them sooner. You know, it's almost that entitlement that so many of us are like, we look at society now and we're like, oh, they're so entitled. They feel like they deserve this and they deserve that. And kids are getting iPhone, what are they, 10Xs or something, Xs, I don't know. And before we even do, you know, that we're entitled to get this. And, you know, we can't be feeling that way. If we look at that and we consider that a bad thing, then how can we look at others receiving what we want sooner than we are when we've been working at it longer? We're not entitled to receive breakthrough sooner. There's a purpose in why we're waiting. You know, we shouldn't begrudge any of those who seem to be getting to where we are sooner than you know, where we want to be sooner than we are. You know, we just really need to focus on his graciousness and what he's doing. Mm-hmm. You know, I looked at this week, a few different things happened, and I didn't get a lot of things done that I wanted to get done, but I was given gifts of blessing within those, you know, and there was times of stillness. It was times of stillness with my family, you know, that I don't often get. And so it was actually a gift that these other things that I wanted to get done couldn't get done. And I was very grateful in that, you know, and I think that's where we have to be is staying, you know, grateful, still praising him no matter where he places us and how long he places us there. You know, it's difficult to not walk into everything that he has when we want it. You know, I think, you know, for us, I look back at, you know, we had provision at one point with an old business, and there were things that made each of us prideful in our own way. You know, I wanted certain decorations, or I had dreams of this or that coming into my house, you know, like to be able to have, I wanted alpacas. I wanted all these, like, Marty's looking at cars, and I wanted alpacas and goats. Cars, alpacas, and goats, whatever. And, you know, I know that doesn't sound prideful to you, but to me it was like, I wanted these things, and I don't know that I would have been able to steward what he gave me as well as I would now. You know, I wouldn't go out and buy alpacas and goats if he provided for me tomorrow. And Marty wouldn't go out and buy his car. So there's different things that we would be putting our money into. So there's a preparedness that he's working on in all this time. And I'm grateful for that because, you know, in the long run, I probably wouldn't have really wanted them, and I would have hated going outside at 5 in the morning.
Yeah, there's so many things that, you know, I used to think that I wanted that are nowhere near like my vision board or anything like that anymore. It just, now it's like everything that I do have on there, I know it's from the Lord, because that's all I really want anyway. And like Sarah said, you don't know their journey. And that's the big problem, with a lot of us, whether it's, just family or friends or church community or social media. We tend to compare our reality with someone else's snapshot, and it always leaves you comparing. And I've said it a bazillion times, and I'll continue to say it a bazillion times: comparison kills. It absolutely kills everything in its path. And that whole, you don't, what you may think was, an immediate breakthrough or an immediate gift for that person, you don't know their process. You don't know what they've been through. You don't, and you have to just, when you do see that, once you reach to that place where you're like, you legitimately in your heart and spirit, like, rejoice with them upon their receipt of their promises. If you can truly, like, legit, rejoice with them, I promise you've reached a place where the Lord's going to turn around and bless you, because you are no longer envy or jealousy or anything like that. And, and I think about on the flip side of that, like with Job, I can't remember the name, the chapter, but, his friends, this dude is just completely demolished. His life, his life has just been demolished, and he's still trusting the Lord. And he's got all these people, his wife and these, so-called friends, saying, just, forget about this God guy, and he turns around and he prays for his friends. And as soon as he prays for the ones that are telling him to quit, lifting up the ones that are basically bad mouthing him and his heavenly Father, then the Lord says, oh yeah, he can handle it. And he blessed him above and beyond what he ever had before. And I think that, like I've said, I don't know how many weeks ago it was, this kingdom life, it's upside down from everything that we could ever think or see in the earthly realm. If you think you're humble, until the Lord tells you that you're not, and he shows you how you can be more humble. And you think you're forgiving until he shows you how much more forgiving you need to be. And you think you're gracious until he gives you a position where you need to be a lot more gracious than you think you're able to be. And so, if you can just get to that place, like I said earlier, that focal point isn't, the dreams and the visions and the answered prayers, although that does come. The focal point and the whole purpose of all of this is just a deeper revelation and relationship with your Creator. That's what it's all about.
Hey, Christy, and how do you say that? Tuesday? Do you say it like Tuesday, Suzanne? Do you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I always, hey, Kimmy, if I don't know, I'll just be honest. I won't attempt to pronounce it. I don't want to butcher it. I don't want to pronounce it wrong.
Yeah. It looks like Tuesday? It could be, it's Tuesday.
Okay, cool.
First, I was like going to try to say something like,
I know,
but that's really cool.
I don't want to butcher.
I like that spelling of it. Hey, Kimmy. Yay, she's on here. Back to where you were saying, here it comes. That was the one thing I couldn't place my hand on. The Lord spoke to me one time. He said, here it comes. And my spirit became very, very excited, jumping within me as the revelation that all of his preparation over the years, all of the trials that we had, all the pain we have endured, has brought us to this moment where he will be magnified as the one who provides and cares for those that love and serve him. And the thing is if we say, okay, well, this hasn't happened. Yeah, but what has? I mean, truly, what has?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, there are so many things that have happened that I can't act like just because the few things that I still am waiting for haven't. I mean, we have been provided for time and time again. We have been brought into, you know, our dream job of working together and doing renovations, that type of thing. I'm working with someone in ministry. I'm writing. You know, there's so many things that are taking place that I'm thrilled about. And I know he's not going to do that once.
No.
Christmas doesn't come one time in your lifetime. It comes every year.
Mm-hmm.
So why shouldn't we expect every time the season changes to get excited for what's going to come with it? You know, I'm ready to experience what he wants to bring every season and not worry about what's not here yet. And not to say that I don't, because I do. There's certain things that I really desire to, you know, happen in his promises over us. But, you know, when I really sit down and breathe, I see that he's taking care of everything that he needs to take care of right now. And I'm very grateful in all of that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very, very grateful in all that. And he'll stretch our time and everything that we need so that we experience some of the things that we want.
Come. There you go. Okay.
Are you there?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not moving, but that's okay.
I'm not moving?
No.
No.
But I can hear you.
Okay. Oh, well.
Is she moving for everybody else?
Are we back? Are we reconnected?
Yeah, this has been a weird night. I don't know if it has. I mean, I don't connect to Wi-Fi when I'm on here because, oh, good.
Okay.
Amy is moving for everybody else, just not me.
Okay, good.
I don't connect to Wi-Fi just because ours drops. We have a local tiny company in our valley, and we're stuck with them because nobody else will come over the mountain. And so if I relied on Wi-Fi, we would have lost connection 20 times by now. But I have a feeling just because of the ice in the mountains and the snow and everything else, something's blocking something from getting to my phone.
You know, while you were talking about that, you know, the Christmas once a year, it reminded me of something that my dad used to say. I mean, he enjoyed doing Christmas, but he would say, you know, but there are things throughout the year that I like to do for my kids, and, you know, whether it's treats or something special or just getting something that they need. He goes, I would rather spend my time and my throughout the year than just on one day. And it just, I know the Lord brought that memory back to me because that's God. I mean, that is him. He doesn't just wait for one day a year. He doesn't just wait for one season. He's constantly, you know, providing for us, meeting our needs. And he does come through with some of those special little things that just, you know, inject our faith in all of his goodness. You know, he just reveals himself more and more, and it excites us and it gets us moving. And yeah, it's fun and it's special. And when you remember that he's a good God and he's a good father, and he is your provider, and he calls you things in the midst of the most unlikely situations, you know, it leaves you going, wow, you know, only God would say this about me in this moment, you know, like in the midst of the darkest pits, he's calling you qualified, and he's calling you his special child when no one else is acknowledging you. You know, it's those moments where it's like he reveals how real he is and how good he is. Good.
I'm struggling with your face isn't moving, so I was pulling you up on my iPad and I'm watching you talk from my iPad. That's why I'm looking down.
Okay.
So if I have to look down at my iPad to see your face moving, it's very weird. Your face is still frozen in that same spot. So, oh, it's been interesting trying to deal with that. It's really difficult to talk to just a picture. It's like you're sitting in that picture frame like you were in the first one, but you're not moving. You're literally a picture on my wall. It's totally crazy. Totally crazy. You know, we were talking about earlier too that just like a mother doesn't regret the birthing process, we can't regret our birthing process.
Yeah.
And how long it takes. And we're in the midst of watching all of the Friends episodes from all, I think, 10 or 11 seasons. And last night we ended it with Rachel having her baby. Oh my goodness, this is so crazy. Like now I'm just like, whoa, this is wild. You know, she's in that birthing room and at first they have the semi-private. So she's in there until they're taken to actually give birth. And she's in there and one woman after another comes through and leaves before she does.
Yep.
And she's still in labor and she's like, are you serious?
Yep.
Going through all of the pain and these people are in and out and in and out. And then finally when she thinks she's going to get to go, possibly, who comes in? Oh my goodness, who was Chandler's
Janice.
Janice. Oh my. And we're just like, oh my gosh, you know, like everything that she had to go through and then she had to go through that. And it was like the worst thing that could have person that could have come into that semi-private delivery room before she actually delivered, you know, and then she finally, it was time to give birth and she did. And then here she was. I know, Sarah. And, you know, it's funny. We can look at like the craziness that happened afterwards, but here Joey was like, she thought Joey was proposing, but he really was in love with her before. And then there was Ross wanting to date her again. Like she was getting so much, like, it was actually good, even though it was like confusion and stuff on there. I just looked at that just now and I thought, wow, she was getting more than she asked for in the end. Like here she was giving birth and then the father of her baby asking her to date again. This guy asking to take care of her. You know, I just think of that's how God's gonna, you know, do for us, that he's gonna bring about so much more than we can even think or imagine.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Sarah, for saying that.
Yeah.
Nita, God does love your children. You know, we are, you know, I apologize. I haven't seen some of those come up with my screen freezing and stuff. Some of the comments didn't move. It was kind of stuck on one or two, and they're not moving up there. So
yeah,
I'm not able to read them right now.
I just want to tell you, Nita, you know, this is the Lord's restoring families in this season and this year. I mean, it's such a focal point for him right now that, you know, I was a prodigal. I was a crazy child. And, you know, it was my prayers. I am convinced, you cannot tell me otherwise. It was my mother's prayers that kept me protected and that brought me back home. And, you know, that it's that moment of prodigals coming back. They're not going to understand why they want to come back home. They're not going to understand, you know, and it's going to be because I was praying for you, you know, but the way my mom prayed, you know, she prayed for me to have encounters, and boy, did I have encounters. And, you know, so I just want to encourage you to pray. You keep interceding for those kids and ask the Lord to encounter them. I mean, he's pursuing them just as fervently as you are praying for them. And
yes,
just know that he loves them more than you do. I know it's hard to imagine sometimes as a mom, but he does, and he will pursue them. Just keep praying for them.
Amen.
Pray for them to have some encounters that open their eyes to see. And I'm going to tell you, that's what happened to me. I literally had some I needed to go to Jesus encounters. And then, of course, my mom was there when I showed back up at their house. And I was just like, hey, you know, can I come back home? You know, so just Lord is in that process this year. I just, the family units are at the very top of his list. He's desperate to restore families, because when he's got the families restored, he's got the church restored. When he's got families healed, he has his church healed to be able to walk out and move into all the things that he has purposed for all of us to do. So just hang on. Don't get discouraged. I promise you, he hears a mama's prayers before he hears anybody else's. So, you know, just keep on praying.
Yes. Amen. See, Amy, it just came up and it said that you were watching, and can I bring you on camera again? So that's, I apologize.
Oh, weird.
It's very confusing from the side. You know, while you were talking, I just felt the words of, allow me to take care of you, Nita, just as you have taken care of so many others, including your children. Allow me to love you as you have loved others. I promise it will be far more than you could have ever imagined it would be. You know, he wants to wrap you in his arms, and he wants to take care of you in this place that you're in. And he can feel this desperation that you're feeling to, you know, make everything right very quickly. And just know that he truly wants that for you too. He wants this for your children. And, you know, he is working through it. Just as Amy had said, you know, it took her a while, and it was in his perfect timing. And he will bring you such joy through the transformation of your children and your relationship with your children, their relationship with him eventually. And, you know, you will be blessed when all of this, you know, takes place. Absolutely. Are you there, Amy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
I can't tell. Sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry, I can't see if you're still there. We might have to wrap this up, because it's just, I can't tell if you're on or if you're asking me to get on.
No, I'm on. Can everyone else see me and hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. I just, if you don't say anything, I can't see if you're still there, because it keeps coming up that you're asking me to join. I'm sorry. I don't know what's happening, but you're frozen on my screen. And when it asks me for you to join, that's just so crazy.
Yeah.
So I apologize. I wish I could get you to move again, but
yeah, that's really strange.
And so is there anything else that you had right now?
Yeah, the Lord kind of gave me a couple of things this afternoon, so I just wanted to share those, because I just felt like it was, you know, some words for someone. And I felt like there was someone that is just simply wondering in this moment, like, what their specific purpose is. And sometimes the Lord just kind of gave me this vision that sometimes there are those watching an artist working, and you don't understand what it is till the artist reaches a certain stage in the creation, or the artist moves in a certain way to reveal it. And so the Lord is saying, you are my masterpiece. Watch and wait for me to move in the reveal. This is the year of a great unveiling of all my hidden ones, the wounded ones, the others called unqualified and too far gone. You are the ones I'm calling forward in these moments. You have been in the cave long enough. And those still hidden in preparation, you have the Father's favor over you. You are chosen and favored no matter where you are, no matter what others may say and do. They may have shunned you, but God is going to reveal you. No man, oh, sorry, I can't read my handwriting because I was writing too fast. No man can stop God's movements. You know, I think sometimes I can just speak specifically to this because I felt this way before. Not that it was truth, but that I felt it before. That, you know, people will tend to maybe make you feel less than, or push you out, or push you aside. They don't support you. They don't, you know, whatever it is. But just know that even in the midst of others doing that to you, or appearing that they're doing that to you, that when the Lord is ready to reveal you, he's going to reveal you. And I don't remember if I shared this on our last broadcast, but I had been given a vision. I guess maybe it was a couple of weeks ago. And I was, you know, seeing, you know, the Lord, you know, how kind of like what you would see in like a pottery making room. You know, you've got clay on a wheel, and then you've got some that are curing, and then you've got some that are in the kiln. And what I had seen was this final piece that was done. It had been painted, and then they had just done the glaze. And so it was that final preparation. And I thought the Lord was saying, you know, I've finally prepared you to a place where you are about to be on display. And I really feel like that is for a lot of, you know, individuals, as well as just the church in general. He's about to reveal. And I just felt like that was, you know, maybe that might be some wording of someone's, you know, prayer time or whatever, but just know that, you know, everyone's been in process, everyone's been in preparation, and those of us that have been hidden are going to be pulled out. And, you know, man's not the one that's going to promote you. It's going to be God.
Amen. That's right. That is absolutely right. All right. Well, I am going to wrap up on my end here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying. I was trying to see if I could see you on my iPad, but it's such a delay that I can't. And you know, I just want to thank everyone for sticking with us through that tonight. That's been just kind of weird how it, you know, paused our broadcast, and then now Amy's frozen on my screen, and I wasn't getting some of the comments coming through. So I appreciate, you know, I was able to see all of a sudden that Sarah was answering someone. So thank you, Sarah, for doing that. That means a lot. And, you know, that's one of our biggest priorities for being on here, is so that we can pray over others and be here for everyone. So I'm glad it's been there for you, Sarah. Been good for you on your end as far as clear. It's been a mess on my end, and it's really throwing me off. You know, I'm trying to look onto another device so I can kind of keep up, but there's like the silence, and then I don't know if I'm supposed to speak. It's really hard. How do people do these like podcast interviews just by phone, and they don't, there's that awkward silence because you don't know if the other person's going to talk or not. So I apologize if there's been any awkwardness on my end, but I'm just trying to navigate with this on my own, which I shouldn't be. No, trying to, you know, see if Amy's still on the other end or not on the other end. But, you know, once again, it's just nice being on here with everybody that we love, and we welcome anybody that's hopped on here new tonight. If there's any topics that you all want to bring up for the future, please, please, please don't, again, put them in the comments, message us. If there's a feeling you get even during the week sometime, message us. Oh, and I don't want to forget, Amy, next Thursday we will not be on. My girls have some obligations at church that they need to. Yeah, Amy, she's staring me down. It's actually a really weird look, Brad. Like there's like this like look like, oh yeah, what are you saying now? Like it's really crazy. So I would screenshot it, but then I'd be afraid I just accidentally end the broadcast. It's like kind of intimidating.
Oh, funny.
I'm just teasing. But yeah, my girls have some obligations at church next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday, of course. And so we're going to just take the week off, and many of you will be getting ready for your Easter weekend celebrations, and we'll join you in 2 weeks from tonight. So again, if you have any topics you want to talk about, and in the meantime, Amy and I are going to work on doing some practice runs of trying to see how it works on our laptops. I'm not so sure with service here how that would be, but we could maybe invite some guests on at some point once we get more familiar with that.
Yeah, and also I just wanted to just invite you guys in the time, either tonight or in the next couple of weeks. If you guys have something that you want us to pray for, you can either comment on this or you can private message us or whatever, because that's really our goal is to encourage and to lift you guys up and to cover you and to walk with you through whatever it is that you guys are dealing with. And because that's what this is all about. We're family, and we need to be keeping each other covered and and doing that. So if you guys have anything specifically that you would like for us to pray for, we will definitely do that. So just let us know.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I have to say, Nita just set up here, that maybe we all can laugh. We can laugh and be more comfortable. Nita, I have to tell you, you have to watch our live from last week. It's on Amy's page, or you can go to rawrealministries.com. We have all of them posted over on our website. And what was the name of our broadcast last week, Nita? We laughed the entire time. Like, we could not stop laughing.
Yeah.
I think you'll enjoy that one.
Yeah.
I just get nervous when the what do you call this? Electronics, whatever, is not working. The connections aren't working.
Yes.
That's when I get nervous, because I don't know what's happening on the other end. So Brad Blue may co-host sometime. He might have done better than me tonight. So, all right. Well, thank you all. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Need it. Raw and Real. RAWAND. Yeah. Real.com. Yeah.
It's up at the top of this post.
Oh.
On the live post. It's actually the website. The link to the website's actually in the description of this live video.
Yeah.
So you can find it right there. Yes, hop on. And all of our videos since November on there, but last week's was hilarious. That was a really, really, really good time.
Everyone got some joy injection.
Yeah, and there's some powerful stuff that happened on there too. Glory cloud and all.
Definitely. All right, guys.
All right. We love you all.
Love you guys. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.